Under the bright lights of Manchester Arena, where anticipation hums like electricity trapped in steel, two men walked toward destiny. The air carried that familiar cocktail of nerves, sweat, hope, and tribal loyalty, the kind that fills an arena when a world title is on the line. Dmitry Bivol, the undefeated, reigning WBA light heavyweight champion, entered first with the quiet confidence of a man who has never known the taste of defeat. No theatrics, no bravado, just the chilling calm of a professional who understood the gravity of his craft. A Russian technician, forged in the fires of elite amateur pedigree, Bivol moved like a soldier marching into a war he had already trained himself to survive. Across the ramp, Craig "Spider" Richards emerged from the tunnel to a roar that belonged to a man suddenly carrying the hopes of an entire crowd. A towering figure at nearly 6'4", long-limbed and razor-focused. Richards wasn't supposed to be here if you listened to the critics. He was a 9-1 underdog stepping into the ring with one of the most precise, intelligent punchers in the sport. But as he walked to the ring, chin high under the lights, there was something in his step that suggested he wasn't here for the experience. He was here for the crown. Cameras flashed, commentators leaned forward, and the crowd swelled with belief that maybe, just maybe, tonight would be the night a British contender turned prophecy into shock. When the referee brought them together for final instructions, Bivol's eyes were cold, still, unblinking. Richards' eyes burned with determination. Two very different energies collided in that moment. Champion's calm versus challenger's hunger. As the bell was seconds away, the atmosphere tightened into a single collective breath. A champion stood ready to defend. A challenger stepped forward to rewrite fate, and the world watched. The opening rounds unfolded like a high-speed chess match played under fire. Richards began circling, using every inch of his reach, slicking out jabs to the head, then dropping them cleverly to the body, trying to disrupt the rhythm of a man who lived on rhythm. Bivol, ever patient, began tightening the ring, cutting off space with smooth, disciplined footwork, always in range, never rushing, always calculating. With every step, he forced Richards to think, to hesitate, to question the safety of letting his hands go. The champion probed with lightning-fast jabs, each one snapping back Richards' head with a sting that reminded everyone in the arena why Bivol was undefeated. Still, Richards was no deer in the headlights. He returned fire with body shots. He tested the champion's guard, and when he let the right hand go, he found moments, fleeting yet promising, that suggested he belonged on this stage. But Bivol's accuracy was the early story. He punched without telegraphing, disguising intention behind that disciplined, expressionless face. Richards would throw a jab and instantly get punished with a counter that snapped his balance off-center. Bivol controlled range like a master craftsman, gliding just beyond danger, then stepping in sharply to impose his presence. The commentators noticed it. The crowd noticed it. Every time Richards tried to plant his feet, the champion made him reset. Every time Richards tried to build momentum, Bivol stole it back with precision. The first 3 rounds set the tone. Bivol was the conductor of the fight's rhythm. Richards was surviving well, better than many expected, but the champion's subtle dominance was already showing. Not overpowering, not reckless, just quietly, efficiently, relentlessly in control. But the 4th through 7th rounds brought a new flavor to the fight, a spark that turned a one-sided masterclass into a genuine contest. Richards began to settle in, finding his courage and his flow. He stopped obeying Bivol's rhythm and began creating his own. His jab grew sharper, more authoritative, snapping into Bivol's guard, forcing the champion to respect the range. The crowd sensed the shift immediately. The atmosphere surged with renewed hope. Richards began going downstairs with more commitment, digging shots into the body of a champion who rarely even allowed opponents to touch him clean. And it worked. Bivol slowed, not dramatically, but noticeably. Richards' long right hand found the target, clipping Bivol's chin and finally forcing him to back up. It was a subtle moment, but an important one. A challenger proving he could not only survive, but score. Bivol, ever composed, responded with quick-fire combinations, but the tone had changed. Richards wasn't circling aimlessly anymore. He was stepping forward, taking center ring, demanding exchanges. He landed crisp jabs he countered effectively, and for one of the few times in Bivol's career, the champion was made to think. The middle rounds became the most competitive stretch of the fight. Richards' success grew from confidence, and confidence grew from success. The crowd fed off every landed shot, roaring as the underdog delivered clean right hands and sudden bursts of aggression. Bivol, though still in command, was no longer cruising. He tightened his guard, moved with more urgency, and began revisiting the basics: the stiff jab, the straight right, the clever angle shifts. And yet, Richards was still there, digging, firing, daring the champion to break. These rounds told a different story than the early ones. They told the story of a challenger who refused to accept his role as an underdog, a fighter rising to the occasion, proving he belonged among the world's elite. He tightened his guard, moved with more urgency, and began revisiting the basics: the stiff jab, the straight right, the clever angle shifts. And yet, Richards was still there, digging, firing, daring the champion to break. These rounds told a different story than the early ones. They told the story of a challenger who refused to accept his role as an underdog, a fighter rising to the occasion, proving he belonged among the world's elite. As the fight pushed into the 9th, 10th, and 11th rounds, the tension swelled into something almost cinematic. Two men refusing to yield, one protecting his legacy, the other chasing a dream he was never supposed to touch. Richards pressed forward with renewed urgency, understanding time was no longer a luxury. He stalked Bivol with long, purposeful strides, letting right hands fly whenever the champion paused in front of him. He punched to the body with authority, each thud echoing through the ring like a drumbeat of defiance. And then came the moment. Richards landed a clean right hand upstairs, one that snapped Bivol's head back and sent a rumble through the arena. For the first time all night, Bivol looked, not shaken, but certainly surprised. Richards seized the moment, firing again, testing the guard, trying desperately to break the champion's armor. The crowd exploded with belief. But true champions know how to respond when the world begins to tilt. Bivol bit down, sharpened his jab again, and unleashed those signature combinations: 3, 4 punches in tight clusters, thrown with surgical precision. He reasserted his authority with cold brilliance, pivoting out of range, stepping back in, landing straight shots that halted Richards' charge. The exchanges became heavier, bolder, more violent. Both men dug deep, Bivol to protect his throne, Richards to touch glory. Sweat flew from heads with every impact, the ropes shook, and the commentators felt compelled to acknowledge what Richards was doing. He was pushing one of the world's best. But though Richards' fire burned bright, Bivol's control began tightening once again. He outworked the challenger in crucial moments, outmaneuvered him when space mattered, and outlanded him when the judges' eyes were sharpest. The championship rounds became a duel of spirit versus mastery, and both fighters delivered. When the 12th round dawned, both men stood on tired legs, each carrying the marks of battle. Bivol entered the final 3 minutes, knowing he had done enough, but knowing also that a champion must leave no doubt. Richards entered knowing only one thing could save him: urgency. He stormed forward with everything he had left, firing shots to the body, ripping hooks to the guard, trying to force a miracle out of sheer will. Bivol welcomed the exchange like a man who understood that composure under fire was part of his DNA. He countered smartly, picked his moments, and despite the challenger's effort, controlled the key exchanges. The final seconds turned into a firefight. both men throwing, both refusing to take a backward step. When the bell rang, the arena erupted with a chorus of applause that was less about victory or defeat and more about respect. The announcer stepped into the center of the ring, scorecards in hand. The arena hushed. Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards. All three judges score the contest. For your winner, by unanimous decision and still undefeated, Dmitry Bivol. The champion lifted his gloves, expression unchanged, a man who expected nothing less than perfection. But as the crowd applauded, something deeper filled the arena. Admiration for Craig Richards. He had entered as an underdog, dismissed by many, criticized for even daring to challenge one of the world's finest boxers. Yet he had walked 12 rounds with an elite champion, never once looking lost, never once folding under pressure. He had earned something far more enduring than a belt. He had earned respect. In the aftermath, analysts spoke of Bivol's technical mastery, his footwork, his timing, his ability to glide in and out of range with logic-defying precision. They praised the champion for once again showing why he was considered one of boxing's most disciplined artisans. But just as loudly, they spoke of Richards, his growth, his courage, the way he forced the champion to think, adapt, and respond. They spoke of a challenger who stepped up from domestic level to world level in one night and proved that his ceiling was far higher than the critics claimed. The fight became more than a title defense. It became a testament to levels in boxing. Bivol, the consummate champion, and Richards, the rising warrior who broke through the stigma of underdog status. Years later, fans would remember this night not for controversy or chaos, but for craft, heart, and respect. A night when a champion defended his throne and a challenger earned his place in the world conversation.